Hello and welcome to the Undaunted Man podcast. My name is Mark Johnson, and this is my partner.
Geoff Laughton.
And we are here to talk to you today about blind spots. What are they? How do you identify them? And what are the major obstacles that people typically run into when it comes to identifying them and overcoming them? So, blind spots are a major problem, as we can, as is obvious by our public discourse these days. And maybe the easiest way to frame them, not the easiest way, we'll say the most accessible way to frame blind spots is to look at the hypocrisy that exists at the extreme ends of our political discourse, the finger pointing that's going on, the failure to recognize that both sides are engaging in the same tactics. For the same reasons and for the same motivations, seeking maybe marginally different outcomes. But the finger pointing and the accusations and the various forms of misinformation and putting fingers on the scales of justice so that your guy wins and the other guy loses, no matter who. Then none of this matters which side you're on. And how all of this is facilitated by our blind spots, because hypocrisy can't exist when we don't have blind spots or when we eliminate our blind spots.
Well, I think another element of it too that we keep touching on like a broken record is, for me, I know that the blind spots I uncover, there's only been two in my entire life. I'm lying, people. When I uncover them, or they're uncovered for me, which is one of the gifts of what we do with Undaunted. Mark and I are always doing our own work, uncovering our own blind spots, and we help each other with that, is the lack of taking responsibility, not only for your own actions or inactions, not taking responsibility for the fact that it's far easier from a psychological mental point of view to pretend that you've got your shit completely together. They're all fucked up. And I'm just going to sit here in my ivory tower and I'm not going to take responsibility for even looking at where I'm full of shit. And I'm not taking responsibility for the fact that I am on this planet, one of billions, but we all, at least in our spiritual way of looking at things, we're all in this together and we all should be helping each other. You know, we talk about oneness a lot, you and I, and we are one. And each one of the 8 billion ones that are here have the choice at any given moment, for the most part. You know, some country drops a bomb on your house and kills you. You're maybe on a soul level, you set that up, but it's not something you went to bed that night planning on. But barring things like that that are literally out of our control, we're always in control of how we respond to something, how we react to something, or how we might want to go, yeah. So I think that's also an important thing. to include when we talk about blind spots.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to jump the gun. I think I just thought ahead to how do you work with them? And taking responsibility is
Mm-hmm.
always a good starting point, at
Very.
least.
So what's the most common in your experience reason that people fail to recognize their own blind spots?
I'm going to quote the great spiritual teacher, Jack Nicholson. In A Few Good Men, people can't handle the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And really, to be even more precise, in my opinion, is people can be terrified of the truth at like one extreme end of the spectrum, and on the other, it's so, inculcated in us, again, psychologically, that we're creatures of habit. So, in my experience, my blind spots have all been things that help prevent me from taking more responsibility for the fact that my life doesn't happen to me.
Mm-hmm.
It's something I'm creating, whether I'm consciously aware of it or not, seems to me.
Mm-hmm.
But over the last 30 years, I've gotten much more aware of what I create, and I still have blind spots.
Mm-hmm.
And I think another thing behind them is fear
Mm-hmm.
of, there are people that have beliefs that if I change, if I become fully me and live in that power and just fucking emanate the energy of my being that is me and uniquely me and still at the same time commonplace, all in the web of connectivity that
Mm-hmm.
is there on a soul level. Well, I don't know what that looks like. And one of the elements of ego is I want to know what it looks like. And if I can't know, then I'm going to make a bunch of shit up about what it's going to look like that usually will scare the crap out of you even more. And it's just easier to pretend that I don't know. And maybe that's another kind of sub definition of a blind spot
Mm-hmm.
is pretending that we don't know what we know. And we just don't want to own it.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I mean, that matches a lot of my experience as well. I mean, fear being the biggest one. People
Yeah.
have things that they're afraid of. They also have the things that they are emotionally attached to,
Yeah.
um, which tends to be, at least in my experience, the largest source of blind spots. We tend to be blind to our own emotional reality. I mean, obviously, if somebody's having an outburst, or if I'm having an outburst or something, if I'm angry or sad or something, I'm aware of that,
Mm-hmm.
and it's without focused attention, it's pretty easy to not be aware of the other ways our emotions are running us.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
fear and anxiety being the biggest ones.
Yeah. The anxiety piece is so huge.
Mm-hmm.
And until you just said that, I don't know that I made the connection of anxiety as a blind spot, though I've often thought it could serve maintaining a blind spot.
It
But
can
I
also,
hadn't
yeah,
thought of it as a blind spot unto itself, and that makes a lot of sense, actually.
and it can produce other blind spots as well. And we are, um, constantly bombarded by anxiety producing elements. Any kind of media, it's all fear mongering. If it bleeds, it
Yep.
leads. I think we talked about that before.
Yep.
Um, so that goes back, I don't know, millennia, and as far as the printing press, and even back in ancient Rome, um, the public speakers that were the most popular and made the most money were the ones that could get the emotions of the crowd going the most. That's what got them
Right.
going. And the people that the speakers and the other media sources that are sources of joy are pretty small relative to the forces of the media that produce anxiety and fear,
Yep.
because anxiety and fear spurs people to either action or inaction, and frequently against their best interests. But I mean, for most people, if you want to shut down a conversation, um, point out their anxiety and point out how it limits them and how damaging it is.
Yeah. And how false
Mm-hmm.
it usually is.
It's usually most anxiety is based on stories that we make up in our own heads and then react to.
Yeah.
That's the source of it. We make it up in our heads and then we react to it, um, before anything even happens.
Yeah.
And because if it's in the moment, you're too busy dealing with the moment to be anxious about whatever the thing is, and so you're just projecting things into the future and making up stories and reacting. It's a horribly
For,
exhausting way to live.
yeah. Yeah. That's a great way of defining it. Making stuff up and then reacting to it.
Mm-hmm.
And when I got a handle on mine several years ago, one of the things that was most helpful was having it pointed out to me and then put in real life examples about how everything I was anxious about, it was all non-existent, right?
Mm-hmm.
To the made-up shit angle that you were just referring to.
Mm-hmm.
None of it was real. None of it was
Mm-hmm.
temporal.
Right.
It was all made up.
Mm-hmm.
And it's getting in even deeper about how anxiety is a blind
Mm-hmm.
spot of its own.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't have to take action. You don't have to take responsibility. You can just keep being a victim
Mm-hmm.
to the stories you're making up.
Mm-hmm. Well, you can't take action because the thing that you're afraid of isn't happening. There's nothing to act upon.
Right.
So there's you can't take action because there is nothing to act on, and you can't take responsibility for the thing because there's nothing to take responsibility for. It hasn't happened. The only thing that has happened and that is happening is you've made up a story that you can react against. And so you are
Mm-hmm.
generating that anxiety.
Yep. And when we do that, it also, just quick tangent, that we talk in our groups every time we talk about being and following your inner guidance instead of looking to the external to tell you who you are, what you ought to be doing or not. what's your inner voice saying, and then what actions need to be taken to bring that into real form. But with the anxiety angle of it, to be able to discern what that small voice inside is trying to tell you, you've got to actually be in the moment. You've got to
Mhm.
be present. And it is impossible to be present if you're anxious.
Mhm. Right, because when we're anxious, we are in the future.
Right,
Anxiety is all about something that might happen. It's
right.
all about the future. It's the antithesis of being present. I mean,
Yep,
the corollary to that is being depressed, because depression is all about being in the past.
yep,
It's about things that have happened before. So you're still not present. So
right.
being here now with what's happening now in your life now, with the people in your life now, with the people that love you and that you love, and with your career and your job and your kids and whatever else you have going on, there can't be any anxiety or depression because there's
Mm,
only now.
yeah. You can certainly be annoyed or irritated in the
Right. Right.
particularly
Which
with
is
all those things, right?
right. Right.
But even that, if you're irritated in the moment and you fight the egoic temptation to now map the past onto the moment or map a
Hmm.
future onto the moment, if you can skip that step,
Hmm.
you just deal with what's here right now.
Right. And so then the
And
question becomes like, how do we correct this? How do we fix this? And that's to ask, what are you attached to? Like what, I mean, we can all say it's a really common question in especially in our line of work, right? You say, well, what matters to you? And people will say, well, money and kids and this or that goal or this goal or my house or my car or whatever. But that's not necessarily true, or it's true, but maybe not as true as other things. Because if you're anxious about the future, there's attachment there that is overriding all those other things.
mhm,
And that takes some introspection to identify. If you're depressed, what are you attached to? Because if you have the time and the energy and are spending the effort to be depressed, then clearly whatever that attachment is overriding the things that people commonly list. And as someone that has dealt with suicidal depression in the past and cured it, and someone that has dealt with anxiety and cured it, I understand what I'm talking about here because I have personal experience with those things.
right.
And I will freely admit, little slight sidebar here, that when I was depressed, the least helpful thing that someone could do was tell me to stop.
Right.
And when I was anxious, the least helpful thing that someone could do was tell me to stop being anxious. So
Right.
I don't mean to be simplistic and pedantic, but after going through the process to heal the depression and heal the anxiety, in hindsight, it kind of is that simple. You just have to get to the point of being willing to make that choice, which which requires a willingness to see our blind spots.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. And I had thought of another blind spot, and that's what I'm having trouble pulling back into my awareness.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you were talking about future, past, here, uh, attach. Oh, so another common blind spot that I run into all the time with couples that I work with, is not only the lack of personal responsibility taking,
Mhm.
but believing that you're a victim of your circumstances,
Mhm.
or that you're a victim of your partner. Your partner, I mean, there are legit, you and I have worked with many men in this, or are working with men right now in this situation, where they're with partners who are either mentally ill or just, let's just say they have an abundance of blind spots. And their partner, which also goes back to the hypocrisy you were
Mhm.
mentioning at the top of the episode, where the partner will rip the guy a new one, but she does the exact same thing in spades, doesn't want to see it, doesn't want to own it, and it's much more easy to gaslight your partner that this is, you have a blind spot that you don't see. What an asshole you behave like. Um, well, mirroring? Have we heard of the concept of mirroring? So that was a little bit out of nowhere, but that's, I'm just starting to really think about what are some of the most common blind spots we run into
Mhm. Yeah,
in
well,
undeveloped.
and I mean, in my experience, the simplest way to identify them, anything that you fear, there's an opportunity for a blind to identify a blind spot. Um, any any obstacle that you perceive in your life between where you are and where you want to be is the opportunity to identify a blind spot. Um, any dearly held belief that involves being right and making someone else wrong is an opportunity for a blind spot to
Oh,
identify a
you
blind spot.
buzzkill, you.
I know.
Damn it.
I just destroyed like 30 million careers because because they're based on just on that.
Well,
Um, and so all of those things represent opportunities to identify blind spots, and blind spots always hold us back.
well, and I'll add one other word that just came to me when you were saying that, is another way to identify a blind spot is to notice when and how you're suffering,
Excellent. Yes.
right?
Yes.
You know, the
Yes.
quote you and I both have heard a million times, pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember hearing that 30 some odd years ago, and my first thought was, what the fuck are you talking about? And man, I know now the difference. And so if we're suffering, odds are extremely high that we're not seeing the blind spot.
Mm-hmm.
And in there, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, is one of the reasons why men's circles, women's circles are so invaluable. I mean, I'd be screwed if I didn't have people like Mark, like my men's group, friends, coaches that point out the blind spots because we don't typically see them. So if you're suffering, and I can kind of, my Erzat's definition of suffering is you feel bad and you keep throwing lighter fluid on the fire of feeling bad, then you're literally creating your own suffering. Um, Now you know you're in a blind spot and you really want to explore, all right, what am I not seeing? What am I attached to? Love that. What am I not taking responsibility for? Because in anything going on in my life, and for couples who might be watching this or people in a romantic relationship, this is crucial to a healthy relationship, is that no matter what's going on that isn't working for you, is to look at what's my contribution to the unworkability. And that'll uncover blind spots, and it's inconvenient as fuck. But if you want what you want, there's an immediate power hack. What's my role, even when my mind is saying it's their fault?
That is brilliantly said. So true. Absolutely true.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to wrap it up here, but I wanted to say before Geoff does his excellent closing that stay tuned. We're going to have some announcements for some retreats, our retreat schedule for next year. The Silent Summit, which is our silent retreats, are going to be quarterly next year. And there will likely be 1 or 2 or 3 other retreats coming up. So stay tuned, and those will be posted on our website before the end of the year.
Thank you. And in addition to keeping your ears and eyes open and perked up for those announcements that will be coming, in the meantime, I hope that what Mark and I have shared today gets you, really moving into more self-reflection, which is not, by the way, sticking your head up your ass for the sheer fun of looking with your headlight at what other cool stuff could I wrap myself around my egoic axle with. But it's actually looking with an intentionality of wanting to discover blind spots. And we've given you 3 to 5 ways to identify them. Check out one of our groups. We have online groups. We have in-person groups here on the Front Range of Colorado. We've got something for you. You just have to have the awareness that it might be helpful and come check it out. It'll either fit for you or it won't. But if you haven't, and while I'm at it, go ahead and go onto our website. No pressure to join a group. You'll know from listening in here if that's what you might really benefit from. But the ebook that you can get on our homepage under the resources link about solving the masculine dilemma, if you've listened to any of today or any of our other episodes and you're still, read that ebook and the clouds will part, clarity will come, and your suffering can go down. So thank you for watching and listening, and we'll be back.
See you next week.